First of all, thank you very much for this wonderful opportunity. It's actually an honor, a pleasure, and a privilege for me to be able to say a few words on in this session. And once again, thank you. I extend my thanks and gratitude to everyone who was organizing this session, especially Mr. Afif Sultana, and also the other two keynote speakers, Serene and Hassan Said. Um, yeah, so when I was talking to Mr. Afif about this session, he asked me to talk about what the future of workforce is going to look like. And especially asked me, I was given the question of what would the workforce look like in 2025. Now, a wise man once told me that never try and predict the future because you will get it wrong. Now, usually that is true. You never try and predict future because future is a very difficult thing. There's something called the butterfly effect. You know, a butterfly flipping its wings somewhere in China in years down the line can cause a hurricane somewhere in the USA. So there is it's a very difficult thing. But then again, I think also the other thing is 2025 is really around the corner and things do not change very often, very dramatically. But having said that, I think when you apply stress, when you apply pressure to systems, you can see what happens. You can actually get a glimpse of what might happen. So over the last couple of years, actually, we have applied quite huge pressure to the system through the pandemic, of course. We have seen from healthcare systems to hospitality how much pressure that has been applied into the entire system, the HR system, the working force, and everything. And we've seen a glimpse of what might happen in the future, 2025 and beyond, I believe. Yeah. So let me tell you a couple of stories, maybe one story about how kind of my work and the way that my working environment has kind of shaped over the last couple of years. Beginning of 2020, I was called up to actually sort of look after two mega projects, actually three mega projects. Two of these projects are based in the US, some big corporations, big companies, and one project is based in the UK. Now, these three projects are fairly big. I mean, they are multi-million-dollar projects, and we are trying to actually create products that will be digital products that will be coming in about 5 years down to the market. So I'm looking after roughly about 60 people, and these people are based around the world. Some of them are based in Australia, Singapore, Pakistan, Malaysia, even in the Maldives, Egypt, Spain, and of course, United Kingdom and in the USA. So the reason why I want to tell you this story is this is very interesting because it actually these kind of two projects or the three projects started in the middle of the pandemic. And I was kind of headhunted by somebody who knew me, and he recommended me to these people. And by the way, I have never actually met these people. And these are multi-million-dollar projects we're running. 90% of the 60 odd people I am personally managing, I haven't met them in person. Of course, we see each other every week like this, Zoom, and I have met them in person. So this is very interesting. And some of these people, they're very highly paid, salaried staff. Some of them are earning something like $200,000 plus per year, So, and the hiring process that we went through and how we manage this workforce is very interesting. The dynamics that has been kind of going on is very interesting. In fact, if I'm being really honest, the productivity is immensely increased compared to what we have been doing previously. So, for example, bringing people to somewhere, giving them jobs kind of locally, and even the recruitment, all that. So this is very interesting. So, so again, if I were to kind of think and predict what might look like in 2025 and beyond, I think we will have this kind of opportunities or ways of actually doing this kind of remote or blended type work, I think very, very much. And this is mostly geared for technical jobs like this. So I'm in the technology industry, and this works quite well. Hospitality industry, I'm not sure because I haven't got the data for it, so I'm not sure how exactly this will translate, but I think a big chunk of this will translate to hospitality industry as well. And the reason why I'm saying is, if you think about it, the future, or even if you look at the back of the first past, let's say 5,000 years or so, humans, what we've been doing is we've been trying to automate things. And I think in the future also, what we are trying to do is we're trying to automate things. So we start with agriculture, and then we start with plows, and then machinery and so on. And the wheel came, the industrial age came, and everything else. So if you think about it, it's actually what we are gearing, what we're doing is really adding a level of automation to the work, to whatever we are doing. So in 2 years, 3 years, in about 10 years, there will be quite a lot of automation. In fact, the theory is that if you're not in a business which doesn't automate, you will lose out. So if you look at Amazon, if you look at Google, if you look at Facebook and other big corporations, all they are doing is utilizing data, looking at the past, using machine learning, AI type techniques, and then trying to automate things. And if you want to start a business, look for a business where automation is the key. And whatever you take, if you're trying to automate that process, I think you're going to be a winner. There's another thing that I would like to highlight in kind of looking at the workforce and the dynamics. So if you think about Europe and America and the Western countries, they are built on this, what we call the knowledge economy. So they're pumping quite a lot of money to actually create knowledge. So for example, I mean, one of the things that I do is I have a team of people. We actually create knowledge. We create IP, we create knowledge. And this knowledge is the key to actually for economic drivers. Now, what's been happening over the last, let's say, 50 years or so, is there's been a steady decline of workforce not sort of decline, but the aging of the workforce. If you think about in Europe, in America, in Western countries, where kind of most of the kind of economic powerhouses are based on. So what's happening here is that we've got an aging population. We've got the automation happening on one end. We've got the aging population. We need a workforce to actually compensate or to keep the machinery going on. So there is a very interesting global dynamics if you think about what's happening. So my prediction or my thinking is there's going to be a huge influx or demand for the younger people across the world. And where are these young people? If you think about, they are in Asia, they are in the Middle East, and they are in South America. So there's a huge demand for this kind of workforce to be kind of, getting opportunities. In fact, we have started seeing this already. Now, a very, very good example is, you might have already heard of all these CEOs of these big corporations who are Indian based. Now, that's not really an accident. If you think about it, it's not an accident. What has happened is, back in 1960s, the American government actually signed kind of declaration with India to actually bring their people to educate their people in America. And that's the result. The result what we see in there, all these CEOs, all these top jobs come, Indians. Well, they're not true Indians, they're Indians based in the US, if you like. But the point is that this dynamics is very, very interesting. So my feeling is if there is a big opportunity, especially for the Asian, the Middle East, to actually get into the dynamics of the entire world workforce. Now, the reason why I want to say this is, and I want to explain this, is because I think when we are getting into this kind of workforce, and when we are having this kind of dynamics, there's a lot of things at play. It's not just about learning information, learning knowledge. In fact, that's the easy bit these days, because you've got Google, you've got YouTube, you've got everything. In fact, if you think about it, all the programs, all the learning programs that MIT, Oxford, Cambridge has ever come up with, it's actually online. You can go and read about it. It doesn't mean just because you have access to that information and knowledge, you'll be an expert. That's not how it works to start it. But the point is, getting knowledge, getting access to information is easy. But there is an important point that we need to all bear when we have this kind of work dynamics, which is the adaptability, the agility, and the open-mindedness, and being aware of cross-cultural activities. So I have seen this in the last couple of years when I said I was kind of managing about 60 people around the world. And one of the most important, it's not about their knowledge base. Their knowledge base is fantastic. We don't have a problem about that. It's actually managing their psyches. It's breaking those cultural barriers. So there was one instance, in fact, it was a couple of weeks ago, one of my American colleagues told to my Egyptian employer that he said, the Egyptian employer did a very fantastic job. And my American colleague said, I'll buy you a beer. Now, when you think about you telling the American colleague, telling my Egyptian colleague that I'll buy you a beer, it doesn't actually work. Now he's saying he will buy you a beer in very good faith, in a good way. But for my Egyptian colleague, this is probably almost kind of an insult in some sense. But the point with that small example that I'm trying to make is, I think that cultural shift needs to be kind of really thought about very, very well. And the thinking skills that comes along with it, and the agility and the adaptability and the open-mindedness is actually, I think, the very, very important thing. So just to kind of briefly kind of, highlight, I think the workforce, the dynamics are going to change. The automation is going to happen, and the automation is already happening, and it's gonna be fast-paced. There's quite a lot of data, there is quite a lot of machine learning, artificial intelligence techniques that are being amalgamated. So when the automation starts happening, and you will see most of the mundane tasks, mundane activities, whether it's in healthcare, whether it's in hospitality, all these tasks will eventually get automated. There's also another important thing to think about here, because people are scared. Some people are scared because they think, oh, all our jobs will be stolen by these automated machines or automated systems. I don't believe so. People would have thought about this 5,000 years ago when farming came. They thought, oh, what am I going to do? I'm not going to be any more a farmer. But that's not how humans work. We are always automate things and then find something else to do, and we want to be kind of in control. So when in this process of automation, I think if you want to be on top of things, I think what you need to do is you need to have a very, very open mind. I can tell you from my own life in this, I started as a mathematician, and then I did so as a mathematician, you are essentially, like, if you're a pure mathematician, you live in a different world. You don't really live in the real world, because everything is very elusive, and you're working on theorems and proofs, and you're actually looking at the entire universe, not the real world that we have. Then I realized, actually, I need to be doing something that is more applicable. So I did a PhD in applied mathematics. And then now I'm sort of a computer scientist. So I'm looking at real world problems and trying to solve real world problems, applying mathematics and computer science. So really, I think the point I'm trying to make is that kind of open-mindedness, that kind of agility needs to be there, and adaptability is there. So I think, as Sultana has so rightly pointed out at the beginning, that the retraining aspect, always kind of relearning the aspect needs to be in you, because the job that you're doing right now will not exist in maybe 10 years. It will not exist in that form. But so you will need to be kind of prepared to be able to kind of retrain and relearn things. And to be honest, I do it all the time. I mean, in our field, things go really fast paced. It was a few years ago, it was C++, for example, as a programming language. Now it's Python. So, and then in 5 years, in 10 years, it will be some other thing. So you will need to continue relearning. So just to kind of wrap things up from my end, I think, yes, knowledge is very easy to acquire and information is easy, but your open-mindedness, your ability to think critically, and your ability to connect with other cultures and other people, those are kind of key things, I think, moving forward. And I think, as I said at the beginning, it's difficult to predict future, but I think there's going to be quite a lot of automation happening, and we all need to be prepared for it. So thank you for giving me this opportunity, and I hope it was kind of useful. Thank you.